Hi guys, in this video I want to solve 15 PMP situational questions with you. Ever since the PMP exam changed in 2021, the exam consists of a high percentage of situational questions. And the bottom line is that the more questions you solve, the better you would get at tackling these questions in the real PMP exam. So in this video, I'm going to give you the question and give you some time to think about the answer. Once you give me your answer, I will reveal the correct answer and give you a detailed explanation of why that answer was right or it was wrong. But before we move on to do that, I want to quickly welcome you to the Career Sprints YouTube channel. My name is Rohit and we like to produce videos that help you with your professional development and continuous learning. If you would like to see more videos like these in the future, I will urge you to subscribe to our channel. And if you enjoy the video, please do like the video. When you like the video, YouTube would recommend this video to other people who would find the content to be useful. So without wasting any more time, let's dive in and solve some questions. So the way we are going to do this is that I'm going to give you some time to read the question and think about your answer. And if you feel that you are not getting sufficient time to think about the answer, you can always choose to pause the video, write down your answer, and then you can resume this video. So feel free to grab yourself a pen and a paper. And once you've chosen your answer, I am going to read the question and I'm going to take you through each and every option and tell you which option is correct and the ones that are wrong. So let's start with question number 1. So let's read the question. So it says, George, a new project manager, is appointed to a project and is planning the project. He is unsure about the duration of the project and hence consults 3 different domain experts. So let's just highlight some of the information in the question. The first expert advises that the development work of the project can be finished in 29 days. The second expert accounts for some risks that could affect development and suggests a duration of 46 days. And the third expert suggests that a new development method can reduce the time duration to 18 days. Based on everyone's estimate, the project manager decides to use the triangular estimation technique to estimate the development time. So if you remember the triangular estimation technique, it is something that is covered in the cost and the schedule management chapter. And in triangular estimate, you are basically taking the optimistic estimate, the pessimistic estimate, and the most likely estimate, and you're dividing it by 3 to get your answer. So if you read the question, it says that the first expert advises that the development work of the project can be finished in 29 days. So this person is basically talking about the most likely time that is going to be needed to finish the project. Then the second expert is accounting for some risks. So since this person is accounting for some risks, this person is talking about a pessimistic estimate. And the third person is suggesting, or the third expert is suggesting, that they have a new development method and it can reduce the duration to 18 days. So basically what you need to do is that you need to add up 29, 46 and 18 and you divide it by 3. And I'm not going to do the maths, but you will, I think, get the answer as 31 days. The answer is going to be 31 days. So basically they've added 18, they've added 29, and they've added 46, and they've divided by 3, so you get 93. So you get 31 days as your answer. So this was a straightforward calculation that you had to do, and you just had to remember what the triangular estimation technique is, which is something that was covered in cost management and schedule as well. All right, so that's question number 1. Now let's move on to question 2. A new Scrum Master got appointed to assist a team. During the first team meeting, the Scrum Master realized that the team members have different points of view about certain aspects associated with the project. So basically, let's do some highlighting here. So it says the team members have different points of view about certain aspects associated with the project. Some team members also landed up arguing over technical implementation of the solution. However, over the next few weeks, with servant leadership skills of the Scrum Master, the team has begun to communicate more effectively, develop some team norms and procedures for working more cohesively. What is the team's current state of development? So this question is from the Tuckman's ladder of group development. And basically, in the Tuckman's ladder, there are 5 stages that any team goes through. So the team gets formed, which is called forming. Then after that, the team goes through storming. then you have norming, then you have performing, and then finally you have adjourning. So forming is the first stage in which the team is just getting formed and people are trying to avoid controversies with each other. People are just getting to know each other when the team is initially getting formed. The next stage is storming, where there could be a clash of personalities, or there could be a clash of different opinions that people might have, or over some technical discussions over which people might not agree. So that's the next stage, and this is where a lot of the heated exchanges or debates or arguments might happen. After the team goes through the storming stage, the next stage is norming, where people adjust with each other. People start understanding each other's personalities a little more, and people are more open to work with each other. So they are starting to work as a unit. They are still not there yet. There could still be some minor issues that they might have, but this is still a much more cohesive stage to be in. Right. And then finally you have performing, and in performing the team has become a very solid unit. There is a high level of cohesion amongst team members, and the team is enjoying working with each other, and they really have each other's backs. So that is performing. And then finally there is adjourning, when the team is basically getting disbanded. So people are moving to new projects, or for whatever reason the team members have moved to other areas. So the answer for this question is going to be norming, because if you see, it says the team has begun to communicate more effectively, developed some team norms and procedures for working more cohesively. So they just moved from the storming stage to the norming stage, and hence that would be the answer to this question. So there is an explanation that is also given. So it says storming often starts when there is a conflict between team members' natural working styles. People may work in different ways for all sorts of reasons, but if different working styles cause unforeseen problems, they may become frustrated. So anyways, the answer for this question is C. So let's move on to question number 3. So when we talk about question number 3, let's read the question. So it says a company is losing its market share to a new disruptive competitor with a digital business model. The company has decided to form an agile team with representations from various departments to help the company relook at its existing business strategy. What can the agile team recommend to the company's executives to enable the company to recover lost market share? So basically what's happening here is that there is a new competitor, and the company is losing its market share, and the company has decided to form an agile team with representations from various departments to relook at its existing business strategy. And what should the agile team recommend to the company's executive to recover the lost market share? So in a lot of questions, it's important that you are able to comprehend what exactly is happening in the question. So you can also try to imagine the question in a visual manner, but it's very critical that you understand what is happening in this question. You have to comprehend the question really well. So let's look at the options. So it says gain an understanding of why customers aren't buying the company's products, understand how the company can replicate the competitor's business model to reach customers at better costs, add a unique product to the existing product line so that the company can revive lost market share, and learn what value is being provided by competitors and the value customers are seeking. So if you look at option A, option B, and option C, they don't really make any sense. So let's look at option A. So it says gain an understanding of why customers aren't buying the company's products. Fair enough, you should understand why companies aren't buying the company's products, but you also need to look at your competition to understand what is your competition doing better that you are not doing. So that will help you in understanding how can you recover lost market share. So this option, we can just put a dot here. Let's not totally rule it out. Let's look at other options. So it says understand how the company can replicate the competitor's business model to reach customers at better costs. So just replicating the other company's business model necessarily help you achieve better costs. There could be many other things that you may need to do to achieve those better costs. So this option would also be out. So this is wrong. It says add a unique product to the existing product line so that the company can revive lost market share. That's not really necessary. You can use your current products and you can see how you can enhance those products or how you can market them better to revive your market share. So that option will also be incorrect. And then it says learn what value is being provided by competitors and the value customers are seeking. So, in any business scenario, you always want to deliver value to customers, and for that you need to identify or figure out what is valuable to your customers. So this option talks about value customers are seeking, and it also says understand what value is being provided by competitors. So according to logic, if you use, you will see that D seems like the most appropriate answer that you can choose for this question. So let's look at, so that's would be D would be the correct answer. And there is also an explanation given. So they've just gone back to the Agile manifesto where they say our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So, we have to be extremely customer centric and we have to ensure that we provide value to our customers. So let's move on to question number 4. So it says an innovative blockchain software product is nearing completion. Since the software is one of a kind, a software training program for end users has been included within the scope of the project. However, the project manager has noticed that only a handful of end users have completed the training so far. So it's a new product, and customers need to go through some form of training to understand the product, and people have not undergone that training. That is the gist of this scenario. So it says, what must the project manager do next? So you will see a lot of questions in the exam where they'll ask you what should the project manager do next, or what should the project manager do first. A lot of questions are going to be scenario based like this. So let's look at all options. It says update the risk register to document the concern and develop a plan to ensure and end users complete their training. So this looks like a reasonable option because people not completing their training can result in people not knowing how to use the product properly, which could cause issues to the company as well. So you definitely want to document people not completing the training as a risk. You definitely want to capture that. So let's put a dot here and let's look at the other option. It says revise the risk register and discuss it at the next project status meeting. So you don't really want to be doing that, because if there is a risk that has been identified now, you want to deal with that risk as quickly as possible. You need to come up with a plan to mitigate that risk as quickly as possible. So you don't really want to wait until the next project status meeting, right? And there is no revision of the risk register here. You need to include this risk in the risk register. So that's not really a revision of the risk register. It says dedicate additional resources post implementation of the project to mitigate the risk. So this is not really a question of dedicating additional resources. You're not really falling short of doing something in the project. You just have people who have not undertaken the training. So this option would also not make too much of sense, dedicating additional resources. And then it says modify the project schedule to account for the training delay. You don't really want to do that. You don't actually know at this point how much time would your users really need to complete their training, and if there is a possibility to get these people to finish their training within the project timelines, you probably want to be doing that. So the best option here would be to choose A, instead of choosing any of the other options, that is B, C, or D. So you want to update the risk register to document the concern, because this is a concern, and you want to develop a plan to ensure how people can complete their training. So that would be answer A. So again, there is an explanation given. You can pause the video and you can read through the explanation. I've already explained the answer to you, so I'm not going to stop here. Okay, question number 5. So it says a project deliverable has failed to meet the end user specifications and has been rejected by the customer. So what has happened? Let's understand. So it has failed to meet the end user specification and has been rejected by the customer. Deeper investigation by the project team has revealed that the seller provided low quality parts. So the problem was low quality parts. which caused the issue. And upon speaking to the seller, the project manager was informed that the seller cannot correct this situation. For whatever reason, the seller is now denying that he or she will correct the situation. And obviously, the stakeholders are not happy with the paths that were provided. So let's look at the question. It says, which of these documents? So you have to look at these documents. Must the project manager review before deciding on the next steps? So you have 4 options. It says the service level agreement established with the vendor, the procurement management plan and contract agreements, the internal quality assurance reports, the resource management plan. Now, the problem here is with a vendor or with a contractor. So, and the contractor is saying that, they will not be able to correct the situation. But, before the project manager, takes like a legal action against the contractor or, tries to do something else with the contractor, the project manager must review what were the terms that were documented in the contract and should also look at the procurement management plan to see how he or she should be dealing with the vendor or the contractor, right? So, you don't establish SLAs with a vendor, you actually establish a contract with a vendor. SLAs are normally established with internal business teams or functional teams or other teams that are there within your organization. So a service level agreement is more of an internal agreement rather than an external agreement. So that would be wrong. Then it says the internal quality assurance reports. So it has already been discovered that there are low quality parts. So there is, so you've probably already reviewed the quality assurance report. So that option will also be wrong. And resource management plan only tells you how you should procure and manage physical and human resources. So that doesn't really talk about any disputes that you might have with a vendor. So you should be looking at your procurement management plan and the contract to discover what were the parts, what were the quality of parts that was originally agreed in the contract. Maybe low quality parts were agreed in the contract itself, and you need to look at the procurement management plan to determine if low quality parts were not agreed, what steps you need to take to deal in such kind of a situation. So the answer would be B here. Again, there is an explanation given, so you can read through the explanation. Question number 6. So it says a multinational consumer goods company which also manufactures hair care products has been getting several complaints regarding underweight products. The production manager must determine if something needs to change in the production line. Which tool or technique can the production manager use for this task? And the options given are scatter diagram, affinity diagram, control charts, and histograms. So if you want, you can pause the video at this stage, think about the answer. Okay, let's look at what the answer is here. So it says a consumer goods company also manufactures hair care products and has been getting several complaints regarding underweight products. So there is some sort of a defect or an issue with the product. So there is, the products are coming out to be underweight. Then it says the production manager must determine if something needs to change and what tool or technique should the production manager use for this task. So the options given are a scatter diagram, an affinity diagram, a control chart, and a histogram. So using a scatter diagram, you can find out if the variables are positively correlated or negatively correlated, or there is no correlation at all. So one example would be, let's say if you were to paint your house door and you were to use a fan to dry that door, right? So if the fan speed is going to be really high, then the door is going to dry faster, and the fan speed, if it's going to be low, then the door is going to take more time to dry. So there is a negative correlation in this example between the drying speed of the fan and how long it takes for the paint on the door to dry. So that is a scatter diagram. So this would not be the right answer for this question. Then you have affinity diagrams. So affinity diagrams basically just help you group similar ideas under various categories. So similar ideas can be taken together and they can be grouped logically together. So again, if you look at the question, this is nothing to do with that. There has been some defective products, and you need to figure out, why that product is defective. So affinity diagram would also be the incorrect answer. Then you have control charts. So if you've used a control chart, or if you've seen a control chart, or if you've read about the control chart, you would realize that a control chart is basically used to manage a business process, and a control chart has an upper limit and a lower limit. And a control chart just helps you determine if a process is outside your limits, or if it is within your limits. So if it is outside your limits, then definitely the process is defective, and it is going to produce defective products. So the answer for this question is actually going to be control charts. So let's also look at histograms, and if you've seen a histogram, or if you've read about histograms, you would realize that basically in the quality chapter, histograms are just used to help you determine the number of defects related to a particular product. So it can help you understand if there is a high number of defects in a particular product, or if there is a low number of defects. So definitely histograms would also not be the correct answer here. So the correct answer would be control charts, and again there is an explanation given where it says that control charts are used to determine whether or not a process is stable or has predictable performance. So that is the answer to question number 6. Let's move on to question number 7. So question number 7 says, a browser extension software product has recently been affected by new updates made to the browser. So some new updates have been made to a browser. Also, a new agile team has been appointed to manage the browser extension product from a previous supplier. The recently appointed agile team realizes that the software product must be modified for it to remain usable. How should the agile team move forward? So I'll give you a few seconds to reread the question and think about your answer. So let's just quickly run through the question. So basically what's happened in the question is that there have been some new updates that have been made to a browser, and a new team has been formed. An agile team has been formed, and they have received the browser extension from the previous supplier. Now this new team has realized that the software has or must be modified for it to remain usable. So maybe there was some defect and they need to make some updates to it. So it's asking you, how should the agile team move forward? So it says, inform the customer stakeholders and propose an impact analysis. So yeah, definitely that's one of the options that can be looked at, because you're going to make a change to an existing product, and that may have some impact on the customer. So let's put a dot here and let's look at the other options. So it says, directly update all pre-existing code to make it compatible with the browser changes. So you don't need to necessarily do that. You want to first see what is the impact that any updates or any changes is going to have on the project and on your customers. So you just don't directly go and do something just because that's the right thing to do. So let's cancel out this answer. Inform senior management about the previous supplier's negligence. There's no point in doing that. And even if you inform them, that supplier is probably gone. So that's not really going to solve the problem. The question is about how should the team move forward, right? To ensure that the extension is usable. So that's also wrong. And then deliver all the code as defined in the contract. Definitely you want to deliver the code as defined in the contract, because you're bound by the contract to do that, but you want to be collaborative. So remember, customer collaboration over contract negotiation is one of the major statements in the Agile Manifesto. So here, you want to be collaborative with your customer, and that's why you want to inform the customer of what should be done, and also give them an impact analysis, and then let the customer decide what should be the next steps. So that would be your answer. So answer A. And there's the explanation that's given, so you can read through it. It's very brief, so I've already explained the answer. Let's look at question 8. So question 8 says, a stakeholder from the customer organization has submitted several new requirements for a project deliverable. However, the project manager has already completed and provided the scope definition of the product's release to the business stakeholders and project sponsor. what is the appropriate next step for the project manager to take? So you can take a few minutes or a few seconds and think about the answer, and then you can choose your answer. All right, so let's briefly look at what the question is. So primarily what has happened in the question is that there has been a stakeholder, and this stakeholder has submitted several new requirements for a project deliverable. And the project manager has already completed the scope definition and provided that to the business stakeholders and the project sponsor. And this request from the stakeholder has come after the project manager has done this. So the question is, what is the next step for the project manager to take? So the first option is meet with the product manager and reduce the number of requests. That would not be the correct answer, because if there is a requirement that comes up, and if that requirement is necessary to be included in the project, you may want to include that requirement in the project. So just a reduction of the number of requests is not really going to help the project, so that would be the incorrect answer. Then it says define project boundaries immediately with the sponsor. In the world of agile, or in any project, we want to ensure that if a requirement is necessary, we include that. So again, that would not be the correct answer too. It says ignore the stakeholders' request for new requirements. That's not being very collaborative with your stakeholder, and that may cheese off your stakeholder. So that's not the best way to communicate and manage your stakeholders. So that would also be wrong. Then it says analyze the scope management plan to see how scope changes are handled. So when you look at your scope management plan, you would get to understand that if a new scope change or any kind of change to the project is being brought about, what are the next steps that you can take, maybe from a change management perspective or a scope change management perspective, to handle those changes. Because scope changes can come at any time in the project. It can come in the middle, it can come towards the end of the project. If it's necessary for the project, if it's going to enhance the quality of the project, or going to make the project more valuable to stakeholders, or increase the outcome of the project, then definitely that should be included in your scope plan, right? So the correct answer would be D here. So again, the explanation is given, so you can read the explanation about the scope management plan. Let's look at question 9. So it says an organization has been rotating staff members from various departments in and out of an agile team in order to enhance the team's overall capabilities. How can the project manager ensure that the permanent members of the team don't feel disrupted? So basically what's happening here is that staff members are being rotated in and out of an agile team. And the reason why that is being done is that they want to enhance the overall team's capabilities. And the question is, how can the project manager ensure that the permanent members of the team don't feel disrupted? So what you can do is you can take a few seconds and read through the question and choose your answer. All right, so let's look at the options now. So so the team's overall capabilities are being enhanced by bringing in new people in the team from time to time, and you don't want this to disrupt the permanent team members who are permanently a part of that team. So what should the project manager be doing? So it says give permanent team members the authority to assign tasks to the rotating members. That would be an incorrect answer, because that is not really going to solve the problem. Just because they can assign tasks, the team members, the rotating team members may still leave the team. So that's wrong. Ask staff leaving the project to pick members who deserve recognition. This is not a problem of recognition. This is a problem of, enhancing overall team's capability and the team members not feeling disrupted. So it's nothing to do with that. Give them higher priority to choose which tasks they can work on. Again, you don't want to do favoritism in the team, because that would be disruptive for the overall team. Like the new people who join the team may not be happy with that. So that's wrong. And it says require staff leaving the team to run a knowledge sharing workshop for other team members. So in the world of Agile, you want to ensure that there is succession planning that's happening, there is cross pollination that's happening, there's cross collaboration, there is cross learning that's happening. So you want to ensure that team members have a good mix of skills, and people are able to back each other up. So these rotating team members could be specialists who are coming into the team and they are providing some specialist capabilities to the team. So looking at that, this would be a correct answer, that if they run a knowledge sharing workshop, that would be beneficial for the team members. So that would be the correct answer. So yeah, there's an explanation that's given. You can read through that. Question number 10. So it says a project's contractor has asked the project manager to pay off their last invoice urgently since the project is having a long execution stage. Should the project manager agree with the contractor's request? So again, take some time, think through the options, choose your option, and then we will talk about it. All right, so let's now look at the question and the options. So basically what's happening is that one of the contractors is asking the project manager to pay off the invoice because the project is having a long execution stage. So that does not mean that the project manager would pay off that invoice, but let's see. So it says, should the project manager agree with the contractor's request? So option A would be incorrect because it actually says that the project manager must negotiate a lower amount with the contractor and just get the sponsor to pay. It's not about paying a lower amount. It's just that the contractor wants to be paid early. So that would be wrong. It says, yes, the project manager must authorize the payment by notifying accounts payable. No, the project manager needs to look at what is the payment release schedule. So that would also be wrong. Then let's look at option D. No, the project manager must first forecast spend versus actual spend to see if the actual status allows it. Even if the actual status allows it, you have documented something in a contract, you have agreed upon it, so it's kind of better to stick to the terms in the contract. So it says, no, the project manager must act according to the agreed upon commitments in the procurement management plan and the signed agreement contract. So if the vendor wanted to get paid early, then definitely the vendor should have known that before signing the contract, that there's going to be a long execution stage, and should have negotiated that with the project manager. So option C is going to be wrong. And then again, there's an explanation given for question number 10. Right, so far we've done 10 questions. We are going to do another 5. So let's move on to the next question. All right, so let's move on to question number 11. So let's read the question. So it says a project is 9 months into execution. The project manager determines that the CPI is 0.8 according to a trend analysis. The CPI has a downward trend. What should the project manager do next? So I'll give you some time to look at the options and think about the answer. So let's try to solve the question together. So it says a project is 9 months into execution and the project manager determines that the CPI index is 0.8. So basically what it is showing here is that whenever you see a CPI of below 1, this means that for every dollar that we are spending, we are earning only 0.8 or 80 cents. So this means that we are not doing as well as expected. Ideally if a project is going well, then the CPI should be equal to 1 or it should be greater than 1. So let's read the next part of the question. So it says, according to a trend analysis, the CPI has a downward trend. So obviously, we are earning less money than what we are spending, and what should the project manager do next? So it gives you 4 options. So it says issue a change request to redo the cost baseline. So it's asking you to redo the cost baseline. Then it's saying ask for additional resources, crash the project schedule, and utilize the management reserves. So let's look at all options. So first one, so it says issue a change request and redo the cost baseline. So this option does seem viable because it says according to a trend analysis, the CPI has a downward trend. So if something has a downward trend, that means that it may be very difficult to recover from this trend. And that's the logic of doing trend analysis, is to understand what is the future trend going to look like. So we are going to put a dot here. Now let's look at option number 2. So it says ask for additional resources. It is not necessary that if you ask for additional resources that your project cost would improve. In fact, on the contrary, your project cost would increase because additional resources are going to cost you more money. So this option is out. Then it says crash the project schedule. So this question is not about schedule, but it is about cost. So again, this would not be the correct answer. And then it says utilize the management reserves. So it doesn't make sense to also look at this option because management reserves are used for dealing with any kind of unknown risks. So we don't really know what is the risk in this in this scenario, like there is nothing really that is mentioned in terms of the risk. So this would also be an incorrect answer. So, this would be the best possible answer. So it says issue a change request to redo the cost baseline, because we know that according to trend analysis, this is the cost trend that we are going to see in the future as well. So you can also look at the explanation on the next page. So it says, since the project is over budget and the trend analysis shows that this will continue, the best course of action is to redo the cost baseline of the project and manage it. So let's move on to question 12. So question 12, it says a senior company executive who is also a project stakeholder occasionally visits the agile team's work area to give instructions about urgent feature work. So this person gives instructions about urgent feature work. The team begins work. During sprint reviews, the product owner becomes upset that the team worked on the requested features. How should the project manager address the problem? So I'll again give you a few minutes to think about your answer, and you can choose your answer. All right, so let's try to solve the question together. So basically what's happening in this scenario is that there is a senior company executive who's also a stakeholder is giving instructions or asking the team to work on some features, right? And the team is working on those features based on what that stakeholder is saying. Now, we must understand that in the world of Agile, any stakeholder needs to go through the product owner to get any features to be included in the project or in the product backlog. So the product owner serves as the conduit. So anyways, what has happened is that during the review, the product owner has become upset that the team is working on these features, and they're asking how should the project manager address the problem. So the general sense or idea here is that the stakeholder should reach out to the product owner. So we are trying to look at an option where the product owner and the stakeholder can work together. So let's look at option A. So it says escalate to ensure that the executive no longer interferes with the team. This is not really necessary. You don't necessarily need to escalate everything. You can directly have a conversation with that person. So this option will be wrong. Let's look at option 2. It says meet with the executive and the product owner to agree on a workflow. So this is not a bad option, because the executive should normally go through the product owner, and you can mediate this meeting between the executive and the product owner so that they can agree on a workflow. But let's just put a dot here. Then it says require that the executive issues change requests for new items. So definitely, ideally a change request should be raised, but then again, the change request should go through the product owner, right? So again, this option would be wrong. So option 4 is give the executive access to add new items to the backlog. Again, this would not be the right option because a stakeholder should always go through the product owner before any inclusions are made in the product backlog. So this would be the incorrect answer. So this looks like the most viable option: meet with the executive and the product owner to agree on a workflow, because that's the way you work in an agile team. So in the explanation, it says, in this case, the executive stakeholder is bypassing the product owner and creating disruption. A working agreement between the executive and the product owner is needed to restore order. So that's your explanation for question 12. Let's look at question 13. Then it says, a busy product owner wants to delegate some of his work to an experienced Scrum team. What task can be delegated to the team? So this is a short question, but I'll give you a few seconds to think about your answer. And once you choose your answer, we'll discuss the question. All right, so let's look at the options. So it says option A is product backlog prioritization, and the question was what task can be delegated to the team by the product owner. So product backlog prioritization is done by the product owner, so that's out. It says initiate and run product refinement sessions, so that would also be out because the team and the product owner should collectively do the product backlog refinement session. Select prioritize items for the sprint backlog. Yes, the team does this, but it just cannot be in the hands of the team. The product owner needs to be involved in terms of prioritization of the items and what gets added to the sprint backlog. And this is a discussion that normally happens during the sprint planning meeting. So this option would also be wrong. Yes, but the product owner can allow the team to add items to the backlog before prioritization, because the way it would work is that the team would add items to the backlog, but the product owner would decide whether they're going to be high priority or not and when would they need to be worked on. So that would be the correct answer for question number 13. So again, you can look at the explanation. So it says the product owner has the sole authority to prioritize and plan the backlog according to business needs. Refinement also requires prioritization. Adding items can be delegated and the product owner would prioritize at a later time. So yeah, you can pause it and read it as well if I read it too fast. Question number 14. So it says the project sponsor asked the project manager to change raw materials used in developing a product since it can result in a health hazard to consumers. What step should the project manager take, or which step should the project manager take? So I'll give you a few seconds to think about your answer and choose your answer. So let's look at the question and the options. So basically what has happened is that in a project, some raw materials are being used which are causing a health hazard to consumers, and the sponsor is basically asking the project manager to remove those raw materials. So basically something is changing in the project. So which step should the project manager take? Now there are 4 options. So it says follow the perform integrated change control process and thoroughly investigate the matter. So this looks like a viable option because there is a change that is happening. And you definitely want to investigate how hazardous are those materials and what impact would it have if you change the raw materials. So let's put a dot there. Then it says immediately implement the change and submit a change request for formal documentation. Now this is an extreme reaction. So generally when you're in the exam or when you're solving a question, look for some extreme reactions. Like this is jumping the gun and just taking an impulsive decision. So you don't want to do that, right? You want to investigate what raw materials are there, what impact it is having on consumers, what is the health hazard it's causing, and what can be changed. So it says end the current work and enact the change control process. You again don't want to do that immediately. You want to do some analysis before you do that. And it says reject the change because the request is outside the scope. The request is very much within the scope of the project, and you don't want to reject the change because this can cause a major risk to materialize. Like it's causing a health hazard to consumers. So that option is also wrong. So the correct answer would be option A. So as you can see, a lot of these questions are situational questions, and you should really understand and comprehend what is being asked of you in the scenario, right? So this is a good way to evaluate a question and come up with an answer. So again, some explanation is given. You can read through the explanation later by pausing this video. Let's look at question number 15. So it says the project manager created a project management plan and schedule based on an agreed upon project life cycle of 16 months. Due to the changing business environment, the project sponsor is now requesting the project to be completed within 10 months. How can the project manager respond to this proposed change? So it says perform an impact evaluation of this change request and evaluate the change in scope. Work with key stakeholders and project teams to discuss the business requirements, modify the original project schedule and meet the revised deadline, meet individually with project team members to discuss which aspects of the project can be removed from the scope. So I'll give you a few seconds to think and choose your answer. All right, let's look at the question and the options. So basically, the project life cycle was 16 months, but the project sponsor is now requesting the project to be completed within 10 months. So again, a change is happening. So this is a question from change management. So it says, how can the project manager respond to the proposed change? So the way the project manager can respond to a change is that normally a change is first captured, then the change is analyzed for its impact, and then the change is escalated to someone senior up in the organization for an approval. And once you get an approval from that senior person, then you implement the change. So here the sponsor itself is asking, to change the project. But even then, the project manager should still do an impact analysis because a change can have an impact on the project. So it says perform an impact evaluation of this change request and evaluate the change in scope. So definitely it is something that you want to do. So let's put a dot here. Then it says work with key stakeholders and project teams to discuss the business requirements. Well, you don't really want to discuss the business requirements because, they probably have already been taken into consideration, and that's why the sponsor is asking you to make this change. So this option will be out. Then it says modify the original project schedule to meet the revised deadline. Yes, you want to do that, but first you want to see what is the impact that it is going to have on the project, like cost related impact or quality related impact. So that again is out. Then it says meet individually with project team members to discuss which aspect of the project can be removed from the scope. You don't again need to do that. You don't need to really meet individually with everyone because it may not be possible for you to do that. So this would also be out. Now amongst the options that are given, you're left with A. So it says performed an impact evaluation of this change request and evaluate the change in scope. So you will evaluate the change in scope to see what is going to change in the project, how is this change going to impact the project, and then on the basis of that, you're going to decide whether it can be completed within 10 months or not. So that is question number 15. So again, we can look at the explanation on the next page. So it says to execute the project more quickly, the project manager should discuss with the stakeholders if there can be any reduction in scope and find out ways to complete activities at an individual level within a shorter time frame if possible. So these are the 15 questions that I wanted to solve with you in this video. Thanks for watching this video till the end. Now I'm going to assume that if you watched this video till this point, you've enjoyed this video. And if you've enjoyed this video, I will urge you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. When you like this video, YouTube's algorithm picks it up and recommends this video to other people who may benefit from the information in this video. Plus, when you subscribe to the channel, you will get notified of all the latest videos that we release from time to time. Lastly, I want to wish you good luck with your PMP exam preparation.